Weekly.
Welcome to Discovery Weekly, an extra show by the podcast Discovery Show for all the extra discoveries we have throughout the week. It doesn't matter what it's about. If we discover it, we want to talk about it. I'm Zach.
And I am extra Kirk.
And I am Matt. Just normal amount Matt.
Just regular dose Matt. So
we're just so extra. Sorry, you said extra so many times it made me think that we were very extra. This is a very extra show.
Did I say more than twice? I don't know.
I don't remember.
Play the take back. I don't remember it. I usually wing that intro. So this week, I discovered something that is so interesting and horrifying that I had to share with everyone. You probably have seen there's like a kind of like a meme gif that was happening for a while of this, but seeing it in its full moving around is even worse. A Hong Kong team made a humanoid robot called Sophia, and they have a new prototype named Grace. And the reason why they made Grace is so that they can treat COVID patients without endangering their staff. So Grace, and this is a quote from Reuters here, dressed in a blue nurse's uniform, Grace has Asian features, collar-length brown hair, and a thermal camera in her chest to take your temperature and measure your responsiveness. She uses artificial intelligence to diagnose a patient and can speak English, Mandarin, and Cantonese. And so what this ends up being is a very creepy robot that it's the uncanny valley is what it is. It's that place where it's supposed to look real. She like gestures with her face. Her eyebrows are moving. She like tries to smile at you. And the smile makes her look like she's going to kill you next. And I understand the need for it. It's great that we have these kinds of innovations so that people are not in danger. But this thing is horrifying. And I was talking to Matt about it beforehand, and I would rather have Wall-E than I would have something that looks kind of like a human interacting with me. I'd rather just have a straight up robot looking thing.
Oh, there's a point in the video where she like moves her neck, and it's just like humans don't move their necks like that. It's really weird.
It's really not good. This, if you never look at the show notes for our show, I understand because you have to do a thing. But at some point when you're home, check out or at least like look up Grace, the robot, because it's horrifying. It's very disturbing to look at, and I just wanted to share that with everyone.
Yeah.
So at first glance, it looks fine. Like it really does. Like it just looks like
it's when it starts moving.
When it starts moving, it's when it's just not. It looks like the first iteration of Westworld is what this looks like.
It really does. I really don't like it. It's
well, and the other problem is in the video they have a live man in the middle between them, showing you what a real human moves like.
And you can see a real contrast here. No, the thing is, she like,
and then they show them peel her face off.
Yeah, and no, but like if you talk to her, she looks at you. It's the weirdest thing, and then like it's all bad. It's all really bad. And
Jesus, yeah, we just reached the face peeling.
Yeah, they really do just rip the face off of it. So this is a video for everyone. It's for the kids. It's for anybody who has a weird phobia of robots. This is going to be great. So basically, just something cool to check out for everyone.
Maybe one of my favorite things about this is everything is supposed to look like a human being, and then there's like a Logitech camera sticking out of her chest. It's just like, okay, the facade is then now broken.
It ruins your. That's what ruins your immersion. Is the camera?
Yeah, that's it.
I just love the idea that something melts a little bit on your Grace model that's coming in to check on you, and the face is just drooping, and they're like, "You'll be all right." I'm like, "Please stop talking to me."
Or eventually they like don't maintain them enough, and it's just like a skeleton that comes in to take your temperature, a robot skeleton.
Oh God!
Jesus. It's seriously, check out this video. It's horrifying.
Yeah, we keep checking in on it, and it's like, oh God, it gets worse.
There's a point where it looks like she's about to cry. I don't like any of this.
No, she's trying to make you. She's trying to make you feel better.
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's supposed to be like. She
just told you that you have 3 days to live.
Yeah, it's like
so cartoonishly,
and then like sad face, frowny face emoji, and then that's it. And then you feel better because the robot made a frowny face at you.
Oh man!
Well, speaking of frowny faces, my discovery this week caused a lot of frowny faces and confused faces. I discovered something. I was looking up unknown origin things, and I came across the thing called the bloop. Now, the bloop, I'll just give you the background on it. The bloop was an ultra low frequency, high amplitude underwater sound detected by the U.S. NOAA in 1997. They don't know what caused it. They have some speculation on what it is, but there has never been a sound since that matches this sound. The sound's source was roughly triangulated to a latitude and longitude that you guys can look up. It's 500 degrees south and 100 degrees west. It's a remote point in the South Pacific Ocean, west of South Africa. And the sound was detected by a hydrophone array that was set up by the Equatorial Pacific Ocean Autonomous Hydrophone Array. It's a system that primarily was used to monitor undersea seismicity. Wow. You know, that was weird.
Oh, so like seismic activity in the ocean.
Yes.
Easy for me to say.
How you said it made me think it was like the new meal at McDonald's. The seismic activity.
Oh, did I say that weird?
No, that was Kirk.
No, it was me.
Oh.
I was like, wait, I was grasping for the word. Where is it? It's somewhere. I can feel it. It's at my fingertips. There it is.
And I know that this has been useful. It's usually there to avoid loud noises that actually kill cetaceans. I know that the Navy, anytime they do bomb tests and whatnot, they have to be really careful about the sound because it'll just like totally disorient a lot of sea life. So I think that this was put in here to sort of navigate that as well as, you know, check it out. Check it out. But according to the NOAA description, the bloop rose in frequency over about 1 minute and was of sufficient amplitude to be heard on multiple sensors at a range of over 5,000 kilometers.
Ridiculous.
I know. So before I go into what the origins might be, I figured we could play the unedited version that is unsped up from a YouTube video that includes the story about it. So here's that sound. What impresses me about that sound is it sounds like a John Carpenter score for a horror movie.
It really is odd because it sounds like somebody just made this sound.
Yeah.
And
it's
not
like a synth.
It's not something that was recorded, but something that was intentionally made, you know? Weird.
Yeah, so in our chat, you sent this audio clip. Well, you sent this video, and it was like a 7-minute video, and you put the timestamp, and it just said bloop. And I was like, what am I listening to? And so I listened to that timestamp, and I was like, all right, so they're playing creepy music behind whatever this dude's saying. I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking for. I literally thought you were trying to tell us that there was a blooper in this video.
A blooper.
You're like, there's a bloop coming,
like,
I guess.
The screen is just black. Where's the blooper here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just starts coming in.
Cue yakety sax.
I didn't know that it was supposed to be a natural sound that was being captured into the ocean.
I definitely sent that in there without any context.
Yeah.
I just typed,
no, we were talking about I had the context.
I typed the bloop 508.
Literally, when I first saw it, because it doesn't even give a preview on the phone, I was like, oh, dang it. I forgot to take something out on the last episode, and I said something real stupid. 5 minutes.
I like
8
how that's
seconds in.
immediately where your brain
It's
goes
exactly
to.
where my brain went.
That's
Like, oh,
great.
I did a bad on an edit.
And the listeners might also be wondering where the hell's the bloop in that sound. The bloop comes from when they actually sped it up to 16 times the original speed. In that video, they actually talked about how they tried to manipulate it and figure out if maybe there was some sort of enhancement they could do to make it sound like a thing that exists. And maybe they were hearing it weird or whatever. So they sped it up to 16 times the original speed. And that sounds like a bloop. And that's right here.
And that doesn't sound like a bloop. That sounds like a poop. That is a freaking whale fart. I'm sorry.
That is a whale fart.
So before it sounded like a horror movie sound effect. Now it just sounds like somebody farted under the water. It's exactly what it sounds like.
I'm trying to look. I clicked on the location of this thing, and it is just straight up ocean, like open ocean. Nothing very close to it. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, maybe whales are just bashful and they don't fart around people. And one finally just had to let one loose.
I've never heard that about whales.
The only thing that's confusing.
So confident.
The only thing that's so confusing is that like this is the altered audio. You know,
right?
Yeah,
because I would think the other way around. Because
definitely.
This way does sound like either something falling and splashing into the water, you know, and you're far away from it, and you just hear this, boop, and then or a fart under the water,
a water fart, sure.
But the fact that this is the altered one is confusing. That's the mystery here.
Yeah, and they do have a few ideas of what it could be. They've said that it could be an ice quake, which that's a whole nother discovery, I guess. I imagine that's where ice is quaking.
Just quaking feverishly.
Yeah, and I imagine that when glaciers break apart, they make a loud cracking sound. But at this point, they probably would know whether or not it was a cracking glacier, because I think they've been hearing that noise quite a lot recently.
They did say that cracking glaciers a lot of times are called scientifically water farts, though. So Kurt could be onto something.
Yeah, but the minute-long...
That's what I've always said, guys.
High frequency. That's just... It's interesting. Ice calving is another thing. Again, I don't know what that is.
Me either.
But it's where
is
ice
that the
calves.
Same thing? Isn't that like moving like a glacier where it's losing pieces of it?
My mind immediately went to like ice having babies.
Yeah, that's how it works. Ice has babies.
Yeah,
look at this
I do think
ice calf.
Okay, the calving one looks like it makes more sense to me.
Yeah,
because it literally is like, have you seen those videos where like a piece falls off the edge, like straight down?
Yes.
Yeah, that's ice calving.
That's what ice calving is. And so that could totally make sense because it sounds like you just dropped something in a bathtub.
I mean, if it's sped up 16 times.
True. That is the weird part.
So
that's what I'm saying. It's so weird that it's the one that actually makes sense is
of their ideas have to do with ice quakes and different.
How close are they to ice?
Well, it's probably
that's the
like
weird thing. It's like
3,000 kilometers away from like Antarctica.
See,
but that's Antarctica.
That seems like a long way.
Yeah, it's like offshore of Chile.
But the last thing is it could be an animal that they don't know anything about and they've never heard before and have never heard again. So
I like that one.
I agree.
It's just a magical animal that hasn't been heard of since.
What if it was
it's
like
a freaking
the largest
weird mermaid song? That's what it is.
A mermaid song.
Just a gaggle of mermaids farting all at once.
There it is. That's why it was so loud and you could hear it 3,000 miles away.
Exactly. But the Bloop, check it out.
Also, this summer.
The Bloop. It's literally just way slowed down. It's slowed down so that it fits like 60 minutes.
Exactly.
No, but have you ever heard whale songs sped up? They sound
it's-
like birds.
I have not heard them sped up.
I almost jokingly said it's like a bunch of people talking.
No, it sounds like a bird. It's awesome.
That's weird. That's very weird.
It's another discovery that I need to now discover. So I found this article, and I'll preface it with this. I've never watched the movie Clerks, but now I want to watch it because I learned a little bit more about it. First of all, I do like Kevin Smith. I think he's an interesting guy. I don't know a lot of his work, but I think he's a cool guy. But there's some really interesting things that I found about when he made that movie. Apparently, he says, I worked in 6 convenience stores in New Jersey from 1989 to 1993. It's a lot of convenience stores in a very short
Yes, it
time,
is.
which is where Clerks came from. It was an appealing, easy job like being a bartender. It puts you nominally in charge, and people have to socialize with you. The main character, Dante, the slacker, who is trapped but thinks he's meant for something else, was based on me. Randall was Brian Johnson, my friend who worked with me at Quick Stop Groceries, where we shot the film. He didn't give an F about what anyone thought. He would fight with people, make fun of them to their face, and he was the guy that I secretly wished that I would be. I was going to play Randall. Then I realized that I couldn't memorize dialogue at all, which is funny. I didn't know that.
That's funny.
So he took the other role, which had no dialogue, Silent Bob. And instead, Brian O'Halloran played Dante. The film was mostly funded on credit cards. This was the thing that kind of hooked me because I thought it was funny and interesting. That before Clerks was even an idea that he had, him and Brian, his friend, had started a contest with each other to see who could get approved for more credit cards. It's the stupidest thing ever.
That's a dangerous game to play.
Jesus.
He said, I was ahead 12 to his 5. 12 credit cards. He said, but I never did anything with them because my Irish Catholic family thought they were the devil's work. So he had 12 credit cards that he had never used. He said they sat in a box in his underwear drawer, but I remembered them when we started filming Clerks. So he literally funded the whole shoot on these credit cards that he had already gotten approved for when he did this stupid like college type bet with his friend, which I just thought was fascinating. Says, I wrote that Dante can't open the shutters at the start of the film so we could shoot the whole thing at night. So literally he had to write it in because he would film where he used to work. He said we filmed for 21 nights straight. I closed the store at 10:30. We would start shooting by 11 and continue until 6 a.m. Everyone assumed that we were making a porno. At 6, the store would open and I'd go back to work until 11 a.m. When the next shift came in, I would go up to New York, drop off the footage, or go home to sleep because I had to go back to work by 3 p.m. But I was never tired. I could have done it for another 21 days. All in all, the movie cost them $27,000, but it was screened at an American Film Market, and somebody that was in the selection committee for Sundance was actually there. Says he only went to see it because it was a crappy picture in the catalog and he felt sorry for us. But he thought it was fantastic and he recommended that we submit it to Sundance in 1994, where it was a breakout hit, and Miramax eventually bought it for $227,000. So they made a little over $200,000.
Jesus.
He said, I can't believe it had lasted 25 years. A lot of YouTube creators, the next generation, have said to me, it's because I saw Clerks that I realized that I could do that. It's the movie that launched 1,000 ships. And again, like I said, I haven't seen it. Now I want to go see it because I want to see this movie that he made for $27,000 where he used to work late at night. And he basically was doing it behind his boss's back. And everyone thought he was making a porno. I just think it's a crazy, amazing story. And I didn't know any of that stuff.
No, he's a really interesting guy. He does those like really long Q&As about kind of the process. So he won't do anything. It's not kind of a goofy Q&A. He really wants kind of deep questions about his work process because he's gone on to make a lot of movies since, and he's always kind of stuck to his guns on stuff that I would say is very polarizing. You know, I would say that there's a lot of people who are diehard Kevin Smith fans. There's a lot of people who will not like what he's putting out. But he's a really interesting guy. He has some really cool stuff you can check out.
Yeah. What was I saying? Dogma. Dogma is my favorite Kevin Smith one.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think. I can't remember all of them. But yeah, there was Dogma, Zack and Miri Make a Porno. He did a bunch of those Jay and Silent Bob movies.
Chasing Amy.
Yeah, Chasing Amy.
I literally know
did
him from Comic
Clerks.
Book Men. That's what I know
Yeah.
him from. Like him as a personality, which is a reality show. So you kind of get to know him as a person.
Yeah, no, he's a pretty interesting guy. He's a pretty cool guy. But I always like those stories. It's like the story of like Robert Rodriguez making his first one.
Yeah.
Because same thing. He got an 8mm film camera and just made the thing on $0 and then uses that and the information that like he gained while doing that to share with other filmmakers. And that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. I always get a kick out of the Blumhouse story about how they Paranormal Activity, $15,000 to make, and it grossed $149 million.
Yeah, the first one was actually really good.
It really was.
The premise blew my mind at the time.
But their whole thing was like, let's just make a ton of money on a low budget thing and then fund the other cool stuff, which I'm sure Kevin Smith did the same thing.
Yeah, they did it. So I have a list of really weird words that I want to share with everybody.
Okay.
I found a list that was just a Reddit post that was like names of things you probably didn't know. And I wanted to just share this with you as well. The space between your eyebrows is called a glabella.
Glabella.
The way it smells after it rains is called petrichor. Petrichor. I don't know.
I've heard that one.
I have heard
Plastic
that
or
one.
metallic coating at the end of your shoelaces is called an aglet. When your stomach rumbles, that's a wamble.
What?
The cry
That
of-
sounds like that's not.
I know.
No, that's
You
Urban
looked him up.
I've
Dictionary.
looked them up.
That's from
I have
Urban
to-
Dictionary. That's
No,
not
you
true.
can look it up.
He
I don't
looked it
believe
up.
it.
It's on
Of a
Merriam-Webster.
newborn baby
No.
is called a vagitus.
What?
You heard me. The prongs of a fork are called tines. The sheen
Okay.
of light that you see when you close your eyes and press your hands on them is called phosphenes.
What?
The tiny plastic thing in the middle of a pizza box is called a box tent. The day after tomorrow is called overmorrow.
What?
Your
That's
little
stupid.
toe or
I don't
finger is called the minimus. The wired cage that holds the cork on a bottle of champagne is called an agraph.
On a graph. My son calls his big toe his thumb toe. I think that makes more sense than big toe.
Honestly, yeah, I'm good with it. That makes sense. You can't really grab anything with it, but I'm good with it in theory.
I get my thumb toe. I love it.
The na 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 and la 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 song or sounds in a song are called vocables. When you combine a question mark with an exclamation mark, it's referred to as an interrobang.
I like that one.
My favorite one out of this whole list.
Hey girl, I love that glabella. You want an interrobang?
Oh my God.
Are you really into like between eyebrows? Is that
Oh, that one's
I don't know.
interesting.
It just sounded funny.
the space between your nostrils is called columella nasi.
Isn't it called a nose? Isn't that just a nose?
No, it's just this one piece.
Oh, that piece.
the
Okay.
one piece.
Oh, they call it the bridge, right? I thought they called that the bridge of your nose. No, this is the bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
my
bridge.
bad.
That's
This is the tip. This is the columella
yep,
nasi.
nailed it. The armhole and clothes where the sleeves are sewn in is called armscye. I guess that's how you pronounce that. Finding it difficult to get out of bed in the morning is called dysania. Illegible handwriting is called griffinage.
Mm.
The
I like
dot
that
over
one.
an I or J is called a tittle.
Oh my God. I
Every
love
jot and
that.
tittle.
That
Yeah.
sick feeling you get after eating or drinking too much is called crapulence. Runner up for favorite word in this list.
Crapulence.
And then the final one, the metal thing used to measure your feet at the shoe store is called a Bannock device. Or I actually think it's called a Brannock device. I think that's a typo. I think because I looked up some of these, I'm like, are they just trying to BS me here? Am I going to say this? And one of these is just like some kind of troll. And I guess it could be. I didn't look up every single one, but I looked up enough of them and I was like, I believe you now.
You really crossed your T's and tiddled your eyes.
I do like that much better. I like that much better than dotting your eyes.
What is the shoe thing called?
A Brannock device.
Brannock device. I'm gonna go to shoe carnival where it's like high school kids that were going to be like, "So, do you have a Brannick device that I could use, please?" They're looking at me like I'm an idiot.
But yeah, just want to throw out some words that everybody can use in everyday things.
Yeah, I'm going to use arm sigh quite a bit now that I know the word for the hole in the shirt before the sleeve is sewn on.
There's so many times where you're like, what do you call this? I need to refer to this specific part of my shirt, but I don't know what to say.
Well, it's just funny because it says the tiny plastic thing placed in the middle of the pizza box, which I know of as the tiny plastic thing.
Yeah.
So it's that space between your nostrils, that middle thing. There's always names for everything.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I always use that stupid thing as a table for my action figures as I was a kid.
Yeah, it does look like a tiny little plastic
table. It's a small dining room table for your action figures. I also used to love going to fancy, well, I guess not fancy, but the steakhouses that would put the little thing that would say if it was medium or medium well or whatever, and it looked like a little spear. And I would think those were toys too.
I don't think they do that at fancy restaurants, actually.
I was going to say, I changed my mind. It's not really a fancy restaurant.
This one's medium.
and then they throw peanuts all over the floor.
No, they don't do that anymore anywhere.
I like that as a
slip
bit.
And fall.
Yeah.
You go into like a 5-star dining steakhouse, you just break out your peanuts and start throwing the shells on the floor and see how the staff reacts to that.
They're like, no, we're not a Five Guys.
Sir, this is a Ruth Chris.
We're a classy establishment with little prongs that say how good your steak is done. Speaking of, just kidding. I got nothing there.
He bailed. I did not set him up for a good one there because it was all a bunch of weird words.
Well, I realized I said the last thing, so I couldn't really segue from.
Oh, so you set yourself up.
I was like, prongs. Speaking of prongs, this man...
Prongs sounds like prawns, and you know what eat prawns.
Jesus. So this happened recently. We all heard about it recently, at least. But I'm just going to walk you guys through it a little bit because there's a bit of setup here. So at a little bit before 8 a.m. on Friday, whenever this was, last Friday probably.
A Friday.
Any Friday. Just set yourself at any Friday that you can think of. Veteran lobster diver Michael Packard entered the water for a second dive of the day. His vessel, the Jaw-in-J, was off Herring Cove Beach and surrounded by a fleet of boats catching striped bass. The water temperature was a balmy 60 degrees and the visibility about 20 feet. Licensed commercial lobster divers literally pluck lobsters off the sandy bottom. And as Packard 56 dove down Friday morning, he saw schools of sand laces and stripers swimming by. The ocean food chain was in full evidence, but about 10 feet from the bottom, Packard suddenly knew what it truly felt to be part of that chain. In something truly biblical, Packard was swallowed whole by a humpback whale. And this
I
is
knew where it was going. It's still funny.
I know. A quote from Packard. All of a sudden, I felt this huge shove, and the next thing I knew, it was completely black. I could sense I was moving, and I could feel the whale squeezing with the muscles in his mouth. Initially, Packard thought he was inside a great white shark, but he couldn't feel any teeth, and he hadn't suffered any obvious wounds. Quickly dawned on him that he had been swallowed by a whale.
How does that dawn on you? I'd be like, wait, what just happened to me?
Yeah, where am I right now?
I would be like, I've went through a portal and now I'm in just blackness of space. I don't know how I got here, but this is where I am.
See, and then he says, I thought to myself, there's no way I'm getting out of here. I'm done. I'm dead. Which that would have been my first thought.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm dead. What else could I be doing right now?
Yeah.
I'm in a black pit.
I'm curious. I don't know if it says in there, was he free diving or did he have equipment?
I think he had scuba equipment. I'm pretty. Yeah. He had scuba equipment.
Yeah, it makes sense. Because if there's deep enough for a whale, it's probably
right.
somewhere you're going to free
fairly
dive.
deep. If it's big enough for an animal that can eat you.
Hole.
But it's pretty great. because there's a picture of him in the hospital. Just, he's totally fine, but he's got little nodes on him checking all of his stuff. And he's just big old thumbs up. And honestly, he looks very drunk, doesn't he?
He does. He does look drunk, even though I doubt he is. I don't think they allow that at the hospital, but
like, what a story. My God.
What was his wounds? You know what I bet happened? I bet he got the bends real bad, because I bet you that he probably needed
He
to
might have
not
gotten
come
the
up as
bends.
fast as he did.
That's
and
true.
the whale just like came up as quickly as it could and just like spit him out. That's what happened, right? I mean, that's what I heard.
That's what it got him. And then, I think it was going up, like breaching almost, but going
Like,
up
this isn't
through
a
a
krill.
school.
wait,
right?
would that pressurize you differently if you're inside the whale?
Just depends on, I don't know.
Can a whale
Are you
take you?
safe
Can a
from the
whale
pressure?
take you up?
Is it like a submarine?
It's like an underwater elevator.
Maybe it's just trying to help. And then I love this. I just wanted to include this at the end because it's quite a wild ride. This article in the Cape Cod Times, but it feels the need to just tell us at the end. Michael Packard also survived a plane crash.
This guy is just accident prone.
He was in a plane crash so bad that the pilot was dead, the co-pilot was killed, and the passenger was killed.
Whoa.
He sustained multiple
Jeez.
serious injuries, but only to survive 10 years later to get eaten by a whale.
But he survived that too.
Hell yeah. So Packard's a badass. If you ever see him,
Buy him a beer.
buy him a
Yeah.
beer. He might already be very drunk.
Based on that picture, that's the only thing I'm basing it on, but I agree.
He says, another guy, he's quoted as saying, "It's a strenuous job, and he's the best lobster diver I've ever seen. He knows what he's doing." Bringing him to legend status.
Yep. The man, the myth, the legend. Well, I think that's all the discoveries for this week. Thanks so much for listening, and we will talk to you again next week.
Bye, guys. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
This was a podcast from the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.